Alright, this video we're going to have some more fun with lettering. There's a lot more stuff than what I've shown in my previous videos. What we're going to do is play with some of the specialty fonts that have outlines built into them. And what you can do with fonts like that is you can make neat quilted looking letters that have like a trapunto kind of effect. You can make the letters sew out as an outline rather than as a filled in satin type stitch, um, and do some other stuff with them, make them an applique, things like that. So I'm just going to go up to my text tool, bring in some lettering here, and what you're looking for to find fonts that this technique I'm going to show you works with is when you choose your font, go under the font thing, hit the little arrow. See how some of these have a little O next to them? Little red O. What that means is that these have an outline file with them. And there's a bunch of them. There's quite a few that let me do this. So I'm just going to pick one. Hobby Horse will be fine. Hit apply. And note, it shows me down in the lower right hand corner that it has the outline thing, the little red O. And you have a new option here under Style. Before, this was grayed out on the fonts I was playing with before. They didn't have this outline choice, so there was nothing I could change here. It was only default. But what this has is, if I change this from default, the little arrow, I've got Run, Satin, Applique, Trapunto, and Default with Run. So these are all different options. So I'm going to go through them one by one. The first one is Run. So left click that, hit apply, and look what it's done. It's actually made my letters, I'm going to make them a little bigger. You want to see how to do this with these handles, watch my video that shows what the little handles do. What this is just a running stitch. Just a running stitch outline. It says my text. So for doing a quilt label, or anytime you want your letters not to take all day to sew out, this is going to sew out really quickly. It's only like 1,000 stitches. This is quick. Take like a minute to sew this out. Here, I'll put it in 3D. This button up here draws in 3D, so it's a little bolder, so you can see it better for this video. So yeah, this is just a running stitch outline, and it is gonna do these letters, and this, I can make this any size I want, literally any size I want. I could make this as so big it would fill the entire hoop, because the limitation on my size was because it was doing a satin stitch before, where the stitch can only be, a little over 10 millimeters wide. There's no stitch width that could be messed with by making it too big. So, if you need a gigantic letter, you can do it this way. There's also another way you can make gigantic letters. I'll show you in another video. But right now we're sticking with these ones that have the outline. So that's what that does. And you can actually even go in and change the properties of this running stitch. If I go into my properties box on the lower right here, this tab that says Run, this will allow me to change the type of running stitch this is. So I can have a single run, a double run. Single run is just going to go just like a straight stitch on a sewing machine, all the way around. Just one continuous running, and it only makes one pass. Double run is going to do all the way through and then go backwards over it again. So you've got kind of a double bolder line, and that's actually, I would recommend really always using a double run for most situations, for if you're going to do an outline letter. A bean stitch is a triple running stitch, and it goes over each part 3 times, and that gives it an even bolder look, like kind of looks like red work. But it's all going to display the same on the screen, so you just have to know which one you have. Whichever one I have, it looks totally the same in all my letters, whichever one I pick. Motif is going to do a decorative stitch. So I hit apply here. And here it's going to holler at me because some of the lines are messed up. And this won't always work. If your motif is too big, it can kind of crowd itself out and not generate all the lines. So unless you're doing a really huge letter and for some reason you want it to be a decorative stitch, which you might, generally you're probably not going to use this for smaller things, but for bigger things it can work. And this little tab here where it says Motif, this gives me all my choice of my different motif stitches, of which there are a million. Anyway, I'm going to set this back to a single run. Okay, now I'm going to go back to text. So the next option I have, go back to my style, hit the arrow and run, is a satin. And what this is going to do is instead of having the inside of the stitch be a satin stitch, it's going to do a satin stitch outline, which is a lot bolder than a running stitch outline is. And it also has to be a bit bigger. Now you can adjust the width of your satin stitch, but you don't want to adjust it to be too small. But this works great for big letters. Look at that. That is nice and pretty. If I wanted to make a giant capital M on a shirt, I could just do a capital M for Meadow, my daughter. That's what I would do if I was doing it. But you can do whatever letters you want, obviously. I'll make it a little smaller here. So anyway, that's what that does. It does the satin stitch. And again, just like in before, I have one of these lines here where I can choose the type of satin stitch I have. I can adjust the width. So the narrower the width I put in, like if I put in a 1 millimeter width, which I wouldn't go any lower than, really 1 is about as narrow a stitch as I would do. But see how it's much more defined for being as small as it is. At any rate, that's how you do that. And then the satin density. The default is good. I wouldn't change that unless you're trying to make this look like a zigzag stitch instead of a satin stitch. But to do that, you would increase the density. I wouldn't, or increase the number here. I wouldn't go any lower than 0.4, to be honest with you. But your mileage may vary. If I made it a larger number, look at what it does. It makes it like a zigzag stitch here, which can be an effect that you might be looking for. Anyway, back to my styles. Down from there I have applique, and that's going to look the same pretty much. Here, it's just ignore this. It's going to tell you that when you do this. This is an instance where you can ignore that message. But here what it's done is these are actually applique segments now. So what I would do, it's going to put down a placement stitch for me, and then I would put the fabric down over that, and then it would do the tack down stitch that holds my fabric to it, cut it out. What a nightmare this would be to cut the fabric away from that. I'll do a video explaining how applique works in this program later. But then it would go and finish the letter off, and so on and so forth as it goes through the design. So that automatically turns your letters into applique, so that's pretty darn neat, I think. And then down the next one is really cool, is trapunto, and what this will do is take my font, make it an outline, and then add these little echoes to it. So this is great for quilting. So you can imagine if there was batting behind this, that it would puff up through here like a trapunto effect, and that can be really neat. Which this you can adjust the stitch length of, but you can't adjust how many little trapuntos come after it. So anyway, those are some advanced fun things you can do with your lettering, and it works with any of them that have that O next to it, like I said. So you can really, you know, the Galilee font. I mean, this one gives me an additional one called Spiral, where it does a spiral fill. This isn't going to work with all size letters, though. Anyway, you can experiment with the different things. The ones that give you the spiral fill, this is a spiral column fill. Just gives you a neat effect. You know, I'm not a huge fan of that, really. But it's there on some of them. They don't all have all the same options. Some of them have more than others. But you can go in and play with that and see how it looks. So have fun playing with that, and I'll see you on the next video.